Hello YouTube, this is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard, and I want to discuss today, without getting too specific, hopefully we're going to discuss what is going on with our society. Why do we have this obsession with reptilians and narcissists? And we need to understand what narcissism really is and how it relates to people's symbolism of narcissism, which is reptilians. So let me be clear before we get into anything. If you're new to this channel and you came on here hoping I was going to give you some David Icke kind of nonsense, let me just disabuse you of some of those expectations. Reptilians are not alien creatures from another world or another planet. They're not super beings. They are a symbol. And they're a symbol of something that is going on in our society that is beyond our comprehension. And that is, we live in a chronically narcissistic society. And the people who are running our world and our society are sociopaths, psychopaths, narcissists. And even that, you probably don't even know what I mean when I say that. You think you do, but we're going to talk about what that really is. And because the mindset of a sociopath, of a narcissist, is so beyond our, assuming we are not sociopath, their mindset and specifically our experience of their behavior is so beyond our understanding of anything even remotely human. The average person, in order to make sense of the trauma that it causes them to be in a narcissistically created society, the trauma that it causes them forces them to come up with a symbol which will adequately explain the intensity of the trauma that they feel but don't understand. They go through their day. We humans, right now, in our society now, we go through our day. We go to work, we watch YouTube, whatever it is that we do, we're on our phone, going on to eBay. You kids, you guys do all kinds of stuff. I don't even know. I'm such an old fart when it comes to technology. But you are interacting with this narcissistic framework, this sociopathic framework, this society that devalues you, dehumanizes you. But on an internal level, on a level beneath your conscious awareness, the trauma of it builds up to such a crescendo that you have to find some way of making sense of it without being fully conscious. And this is the insidiousness of it. The sociopathic elites who are running the world and the society that it's built, AI, I'm really understanding the whole idea behind AI now. All of this you are interacting with, and you couldn't live without. But it is dehumanizing and devaluing you to such a degree that you have to come up with a symbol that adequately explains the intensity of it. And so this is why there are many people who believe in the idea that there are alien, reptilian overlords who are, more, they have supernatural power, they have alien technology, and they're running our lives because that's how it feels. And that adequately explains narcissists. So from here on out, whenever I use the word reptilian, and whenever you hear anybody else, if you go watch any other channels that talk about reptilians, if you like following David Icke and he uses the word reptilian, bear in mind he doesn't even realize it. What he's saying is he means sociopathic humans that control us. That's what he means by that. But even he can't comprehend it. So he creates a symbol that he can comprehend, and also we need that, because we need to spiritualize it, because it feels that it's beyond human. And so we call them reptilians, and we create this mythology. And the mythology serves to help us feel sane. Because if we didn't have that, you would feel like you were going insane. In fact, I'm willing to bet many of you on here who follow David Icke or anybody else who talks about reptilians controlling the world, I'm willing to bet that before you discovered that, you felt like you were losing your mind. You knew that something insidious and powerful and sociopathic and predatory was coming for you, was draining you of your life force, but you couldn't put your finger on it. And because you couldn't find out exactly what it was, you felt like you were losing your sanity. You didn't feel like you were rational. And then somebody comes along and explains it in a mythological way that describes exactly how you feel, and therefore, in order to save your sanity, you lock onto it. You say, yes, that must be what is going on. And if you went through what I went through in September, because if you've been following my channel, I had a complete turnaround of beliefs in many areas in September. And I went from being part of the narrative to somebody who now I can't even speak my mind on YouTube, because YouTube will shut me down if I do. It's already shut me down numerous times. So I have to be very careful what I say. But if you went through what I went through, for me, in the month of September especially, it was extremely traumatic for me to come to the realization that what I thought was the world didn't exist. That things that I thought existed, like democracy, government, law, regulation, freedom, I thought these things existed. There were some problems, but I really believed in them. And to come to the realization, and I've talked about this on my Odyssey channel, to come to the realization that none of that is accurate was incredibly traumatic for me. And so I can imagine for a lot of people it was the same. Now your situation might have been different. I don't know. I can't speak for you. So we need to actually understand what narcissism is. And as it turns out, I've had my own experience growing up. I grew up with an alcoholic father, perhaps borderline tendencied mother, definitely a narcissistic, psychopathic older brother. And I had a less than ideal childhood as a result of that. And I survived that. And I've been working on myself ever since then. Ever since I was 18 years old, I've been working very hard on myself to become healed, conscious, and aware. And this channel is the cumulative result of all of that work and knowledge that I've had to do for my own survival. But I still didn't completely understand and had not been made aware of what narcissism really was. And then a couple of years ago, I met a woman, and I won't get into it, and I talked about her last night. I'm not going to talk about who she is or reveal her identity. But somebody asked me what was my experience of the most evil presence I'd ever been around. And I said, well, I'll tell you, but it's not going to be what you think. But the most evil presence I ever experienced was dating a woman who had a severe mental illness called borderline personality disorder, which is a form of narcissistic personality disorder. And so as a result of that, in order to heal from that and to feel sane again, I did the things that I needed to do, which I already knew how to do, to heal myself from the emotional and psychological trauma, and to walk away from that relationship and be able to today have zero negative feelings towards her, even though I felt severely abused. But what has happened since then is, for the past couple of years, I've been really diving into understanding what narcissistic personality disorder is. So let me be really clear. On YouTube, there is no shortage of people who throw around the word narcissist. And a narcissist, if we just take the definition of the word, we're talking about somebody who's self-absorbed. In that sense, every single one of us has narcissism to some degree, and we have to have it in order to survive. So narcissism isn't toxic in and of itself. But narcissistic personality disorder, when we're talking about people who suffer from a severe mental illness called narcissistic personality disorder, then we start to go into the making of what creates, in some cases, not in all cases, but in some cases, very evil people. Very evil, destructive people. And we live in a society that is controlled and ruled by narcissistic structures, governmental structures, societal structures, psychological structures. There's a really great phrase out now called virtue signaling. Virtue signaling, whenever you see somebody virtue signal, like, just to give you an example, if I go on to just about any dating app, there will be women on there who in their first line will say, double vaxxed and boosted. That's the first thing they want you to know about them. That's called virtue signaling. It's like when you go to church and the first thing somebody says is, I'm saved by the blood of Jesus. It's virtue signaling. They are signaling to you what it is that gives them validity. So for somebody to say on a dating app that the first thing that they say is, I'm double vaxxed and boosted, without even having to say anything, it is understood that anybody who, in her mind, doesn't have that is dirty, is diseased, is dangerous, is bad, is selfish. She doesn't have to say anything. That is understood by that virtue signaling. That virtue signaling is actually her response to the trauma of the threat of not being accepted and part of this society. You are a bad person. In Christianity, it's, if you don't believe in Jesus, you will burn in hell. You will have no value. God hates you. He will destroy you. God is a psychopathic, sociopathic narcissist. Jehovah, without a doubt. He is the perfect example of that. Which is why the codependent example, Jesus, who allowed himself to be ritually murdered for something he didn't do because he had to take care of you, the innocent victim. It's just, that's what's been guiding our society for 2,000 years. And it has come to a crescendo. And so the only way that we can understand this on an emotional level is to create a mythology that there are super beings who aren't human. They're alien. They're not from our world, meaning they're not like me. I can't understand them, and they frighten me. So we find a symbol that we find very frightening, which are reptiles. So reptiles are predatory. They are oftentimes very powerful. If they're not powerful, they're very dangerous and very sneaky. A snake, you don't even see it. A snake will you can just be walking and not even see it, and it'll bite you on your ankle and kill you. So snakes, serpents, lizards, reptiles of any kind, we have a natural aversion to them because we look them in the eyes, especially like try and look a snake in the eyes. There's this feeling that there's an evil presence and it's dead. There's really nothing there. Like look at a shark. Try and find if a shark swims by, or if you go to an aquarium and try and look in the eyes of a shark, see if you can find any personality. There's nothing there. The eyes are dead. This frightens us. Why do you think we have movies about zombies? Zombies are very frightening. They're frightening because they're humans that won't die from the trauma they've experienced. The trauma they've experienced has infected them, and it won't kill them. And they do not recognize other humans as anything other than food. And what do they want to eat? They want to eat your brains, which is where you believe your consciousness resides. You are afraid of zombies because you can't kill them. No matter what you do to them, they don't feel anything. They get up and they lumber over to you, and if they bite you, you become one of them, and then they will eat your brains, which is your consciousness. And this is another symbol of what it's like to be in a society that is narcissistic. So, before I get off on too many tangents, let me give you look at my notes here. So, first thing we need to understand is that the elites who are running the world, the corporatocracy that is running the world, it's not going to overtake the world. It's not going to conquer the world. It has done so. The majority of the governments of the world are run by a corporatocracy that is beyond government regulation, that is beyond banks. It's the level of power that these people have. They make or break. They play politics in countries like checkers on a chessboard. They are outside of our reach when it comes to voting them out, when it comes to using the rule of law, when it comes to things like that. They're out of our reach. And that makes us feel disempowered, but it also makes us feel like we're dealing with entities and structures that are superhuman. So we ascribe spiritual power to them. And we need to see, first and foremost, that the elites are human. They are not alien reptilian hybrids. They are not something outside of our world. They have come from and are part of our world, even if we can't comprehend it. If we can't comprehend their sociopathy, which means lack of empathy. And that's what it all comes down to. The reason why we see them as reptilians is because reptilian creatures, unlike dogs, cats, even cows, reptiles have no empathy. They don't look at you and see you, and you can't pet them on the head and get them to love you and like you. You might be able to train them and feed them, but they're never going to care about you. They're never going to miss you if you die. They don't connect with you that way. They don't have any empathy. And so people who are narcissistic, who have this a personality disorder, who have this insanity, they behave in ways that we perceive them as not having any human emotion. And in terms of their interaction with us, we are correct. They have no empathy for us. They are unable to get into our skin and know what it feels like to be us. They have no awareness or concern about what they do to us. If they're psychopathic, they not only don't care, but they get off on your pain and your misery. And they're human. This is the most frightening part of it. It's easier to see them as being alien, non-human hybrids. Then it makes sense, because then we can feel safe among other humans. But what if, like zombies, they're human, but there's nobody home? They have no empathy. They only see you as food, and what they want to feed off of is your consciousness. They want to feed off of your individuality. They want to feed off of your individuation, which is, in order to be a fully healthy person, you must be individuated. And I won't take the time to explain that right now. You can look it up. Look up the word, individuation in psychology, and you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about. So the idea that they are invulnerable, they want you to believe that. That again, we look at them as zombies, we look at them as reptilians, we look at them as demons, because those words, the assumption is they're invulnerable to anything that we can do. We can't shoot them, we can't stab them, we can't kill them. They're invulnerable, and all they have to do is, you kill one, but he bit 5 others, and they bite 5. I mean, it's beyond our control. That is an illusion. The narcissist, the person who has a narcissistic personality disorder, the person with the mental illness, wants you to believe that they are invulnerable. They also want you to believe that they have no emotions. And neither of those things are true. They are vulnerable. In fact, they are so vulnerable, they have to create this firewall between you and them that gives you the feeling that they are invulnerable and they're all powerful and they have no feelings and they have no vulnerability. And all of that is a lie. That's why, I'm coming to understand why I disliked the whole reptilian thing, because it creates a victim mentality. So drop that whole reptilian nonsense, because none of that is true. These are human beings who, there are many of them, and they suffer from varying levels of insanity. But they're human. The truth is that somebody who has narcissistic personality disorder is continuously terrified. They are filled with fear. They are terrified. The thing that they are most terrified of is being seen. If you are able to see any actual vulnerability in them, that to them is worse than death. And that is the one thing that they seek to avoid, is to be seen for who they are. It's called narcissistic mortification. And before we get into that, let me explain to you how a narcissist is created. So, there's a reason why I put this picture up. Because that individual, when you do research on that individual, you find out that there's no doubt in my mind that that individual is suffering from a mental illness. And I won't get into it. I talked about it on my Odyssey channel, but there's no doubt in my mind. He's not just he's not just a selfish, greedy person. He's insane. And at the core of him is a terrified infant. And the fear that he deals with on a daily basis is why nothing is ever enough, why he has an insatiable greed that can never be satisfied. In fact, his new venture that he's been doing for the past, I think it's 20 years, that he's known for, and you see him showing off his wares in this picture, the thing that's made him billions and billions of dollars. That came about because he was unable, in fact, he went to court and was unable to continue to have a monopoly over technology. And when he lost that, it was narcissistic mortification for him, because he was seen as selfish, and he lost court cases that saw him as vulnerable. And then what did he do? Right after that, he then, in case you don't know, he's been creating and investing in these for 20 years, and he's made billions of dollars ever since then. And he is seeking, he enjoys, by the way, you can find videos of him giggling like a little schoolgirl when asked if people should be forced to get the jibby jab in order to get on a plane, even old people. And he giggles like a schoolgirl. The thought of having that much power over people makes him giddy, and he tries to hide it, but he's like a little kid. He just giggles. We're talking about an insane person. This person is not rational. He's not sane. So what is it that creates narcissistic personality disorder? So that you understand who you're dealing with. That you're not dealing with a human being that can be rationally communicated with. You're not dealing with a human being with whom you can make any kind of compromise with. You're not dealing with somebody who has the ability to empathize with your relevance, your value. They don't have it. But being a human being that you are, you can't comprehend a human being that you can't sit down and talk to. You can't comprehend another human that you can't sit down, talk to, reason with, and get them to empathize with you. It's an intolerable mind fuck. You can't. So you see them as narcissistic, reptilian aliens. So let's talk about what creates narcissistic personality disorder. Very oftentimes there's something genetic in the brain, predisposition. That in and of itself won't create a narcissist. That in and of itself can create actually a hero. Like people who are able to go into battle without any fear, and they get Purple Hearts. It's because they probably have the genetic predisposition to not have fear, to not have the same kind of feelings that you and I might have, which would scare us. Doesn't scare them. There's something going on upstairs that gives them that. But they're not narcissists because there hasn't been the right sequence, the perfect storm of events. So oftentimes there's a mental predisposition, genetic, in the brain. Then what ends up happening is sometimes as early as 2 months of age. So when an infant is let's say this has happened to a lot, which is, by the way, why a lot of people who are orphans, why you find a large number, a disproportionate number of serial killers are orphans. I don't know if you knew that. But that's because if you take an infant and you do not put it in an environment where it is continuously touched, loved, talked to, what ends up happening is that the infant, the brain starts to there are things that don't connect. It's incredibly traumatizing. It's the worst trauma. It's worse than any trauma you can imagine. And it happens at an age that, of course, they don't retain the memory of it. But the trauma remains in the body, it remains in the tissues, and it remains in the brain, and it remains in the psyche. So it could be just as simple as literally putting a baby onto the doorstep of an orphanage and leaving it there for a day. That's enough. But it could be that. It could be, babies. The thing is that people with mental disorders have children. So the best way to create a mentally disordered child, and again, I'm talking about a psychological disorder. I'm not talking about something congenital, like autism. Those are different things. Those people have issues, but it's not a psychological disorder. I just want to be clear about that. But if you have a child where there's, for whatever reason, a disabled, mentally, emotionally, psychologically disabled or disordered mother, will create a narcissist, because the mother won't be able to empathize with the child, won't be able to give love to the child, won't be able to interact with the child, because it is in that, when an infant is interacting with the parents, that is when the beginnings of the foundation of their identity is created. And if that never happens, they never create an identity. And it doesn't matter, I knew a woman very briefly, and this was when I was just coming out of the toxic relationship I was in, and I was telling her, I just found out I've been dating a woman who has a mental illness, and I've been so heavily traumatized by it and so abused, and she said, my adopted sister has borderline personality disorder, and she's exactly the way you just described. And I said, but the rest of your family, your other brothers and sisters, yeah, all my other brothers and sisters are normal and loving and healthy. She grew up. We got her when she was 2 months old. And she was loved and nurtured from the moment that we had her. She was just treated even more special than the rest of the children. And she grew up with this, and then she had this mental illness. And they think that what had happened is that this infant had been abandoned, like literally left, it was in a war zone, just left out, by itself for who knows how long. Could have been a few hours, could have been a day, but it was enough to snap that little brain. And the trauma of that destroyed that child's ability to create a sense of self, to create an identity. There's more stuff that goes into it that I won't take time to talk about. But what's important to understand is that if you do not have an identity, you cannot empathize for anybody else. If you do not have an identity, you cannot associate your feelings with your actions. If you do not have an identity, you cannot have a feeling of responsibility for the effects of your actions on others. So that feeling that you have that the people who are running the world do not see you, do not empathize with you, do not care about you, is accurate, because they don't. They can't. The people that do what this human being has done, this cannot be done by a human being who has empathy. It's impossible. Because if you have empathy for another person, it will become intolerable for you to know that you are consciously doing things that are damaging and harming innocent people. You will not be able to live with yourself. People talk about integrity. People won't take jobs. They won't, they'll be offered all kinds of money or, sex or fame, and they will say, because of my integrity, I just couldn't do it. Meaning, I can't tolerate the thought of me being alive and having done that, and devalued myself and other people. I can't tolerate it. They'd rather die. There are people that we call them heroes. They die rather than do whatever it is that devalues and harms innocent people. They can't live with themselves. So for somebody to live with themselves after having been responsible for things that I can't talk about, it means that they have no identity. They have no sense of self. So it's important that you understand that. It's important that we understand that these are human beings that have done this. So how do people with these mental disorders, how do they function? Because the truth is, your identity is what you push off of. Like when you're in a pool, right? Or in the ocean, and you dive down below the surface. You have to push off the bottom to get back and breathe again. That's a really good symbolic understanding of what it's like to be a human being. You have to have a self from which you can push off of in order to breathe, in order to function. So these mentally disordered people don't have that. They have nothing to push off of. And so for them, it's like sinking. So in order to function, they create a false self that they don't identify with, by the way. So it's not like, people have likened it to actors, but the truth is that actors aren't narcissists. In order to be like, Robert De Niro or whoever it is, they're narcissistic because, an actor wants attention. That's narcissistic, but they don't have a mental illness. And you can do this if you watch people who have multiple personalities. When you watch people who have multiple personalities, they go in and out into these other personalities. If you spend time and listen to them, you'll find that their personalities aren't believable. Like they would be bad actors. They're like playing a character, but it's not believable. And it's not believable because it's a false created self. An actor takes his self and he puts his self into the character. So that's why it's believable. But these mentally disordered people without any empathy, they create a false self that they think in their disordered infantile brains, because bear in mind, on a psychological level, they're infants. So their level of depth and understanding on an emotional level is that of an infant. So imagine a damaged infant trying to create the perfect persona in order to survive, because that's what it is. They don't know. They're an infant. They have no clue what being a responsible adult is. They have no idea what that is, what it feels like. But they do their best to create what they think. So it ends up becoming a hyper-inflated caricature. And, I could name off some well-known narcissistic people, and anyway, I'm not going to name anybody in particular, but the character that they give off to the world is, it's usually unbelievable. it's usually distorted, and it's superficial, and it's a caricature of somebody. It's not a real thing. And that's because an infant doesn't know. So it creates a cartoon character and puts it out there. But it is always somebody that's invulnerable and has no faults and is perfect and must be worshipped as a god. If you do not worship them as a god, they will destroy you, eliminate you, terrorize you, abuse you. And they do this because they have no identity. They have no sense of self. Their emotions, the reason why narcissists come off as these beings that have no emotions, isn't because they don't have emotions, because they do. In fact, they have emotions that are so intense, it's intolerable. So they shut them down, push them down, and shut them off. But they're still raging underneath. In fact, it's incredibly painful for them. And so what they do is they outsource their emotional regulation. In order to regulate these intense emotions, they need your sense of self. So they outsource their emotional regulation onto you. And they do that through their abuse, through their control. The control, the abuse that they heap upon you brings them emotional regulation because they're literally stealing it from you. And I wish I could put it into words. It goes on a much deeper level than this. There are types of narcissists who outsource their identity to other people. And those types of narcissists, in order to regulate their emotions, they surround themselves with people who have a strong sense of self, or somebody that they believe has a strong sense of self, and then they siphon off of that person. So what'll happen is they will hook themselves up with somebody who's very confident, very mature, that comes across powerful. They will hook themselves up with these people, and they will fawn all over them. So the people that they're looking up to as these powerful people, these narcissists will fawn all over them and make them, it's called love bombing or idealization. And in the beginning, the person on the other end, the unknowing person on the other end, thinks it's great. Oh, this person really likes me. This is good for my ego. But if you watch, after a while, they literally are sucking off out of their aura that person's self-identification. And then by the end, when they can no longer gain any outsource their emotional regulation or their identity off the other person, they will discard that person. They'll usually create a false event and make up something about how horribly this person did something to them that they didn't do, accuse them of things they didn't do. And then that person that was once very powerful and confident, you'll see, will be a shell of their former self, because there's nothing left. They will have farmed out all of their power and their identity to the narcissist. And when the narcissist has eaten everything there is to eat, they discard them. And if you take that, I'm giving you this understanding so you can look at what's happening on a societal level. And at some point, people are asking, when is this going to stop? When are these mandates going to stop? First it was, we're just going to flatten the curve. And then it was, we're just going to give this reptilian anointing to people who are, they have health challenges. And then it became every single person of adult age. And then it became, if you don't get it, you won't be able to work, you won't be able to eat, you won't be able to travel, you won't be able to go to bars, clubs, restaurants, you won't be able to function in society. And then it was teenagers. Teenagers had to get the reptilian anointing. And now it's little kids and infants. When is it going to stop? It's never going to stop as long as we outsource our individuality to them. And it won't stop with the jibby jab. It's not like we get rid of the jibby jab and all of a sudden these narcissist controllers of the world will stop and go, okay, well, I've got my $700 billion. I'm okay. Well, okay, we're done now. No, it's never going to stop. Because they have no sense of self. Inside of them is a black hole that is horrifically painful. Every single moment that they're alive, they are in horrific pain. They are in horrific torment. One person described it this way. Imagine having a whirlwind of razor blades in your brain. That's how they described what it was like to be a narcissist. So the only thing that will stop them, that will stop the reptilians, is what's called narcissistic mortification. Mortification is a Latin word. It means to make dead. The way you make somebody who has narcissistic personality disorder, the way that you stop them is you reveal to them the emptiness within. And that mortifies them because that's what they're most afraid of. They're most afraid of you seeing how empty they are and to be forced to look at it. And the greatest example of that is vampires. Vampires cannot tolerate being around mirrors. You would think it would be cool. Oh, look at me, I'm invisible. No, they can't tolerate that there's no reflection. They can't tolerate it. They have to destroy the mirror. It mortifies them. And what mortifies the narcissist is your refusal to give up your identity. Your refusal to give up your individuation. Your refusal to keep giving into their incessant demands on you. Your refusal to give up your boundaries, your freedom, your rights. These things mortify them. Now, what the strategy is to pick you off one by one and isolate you. Which is why there are quarantines, which is why there are lockdowns, which is why I am being, and you, if you have a YouTube channel, why you are being censored. Why there is censorship on Facebook, that people can't personal messages. They can't send personal messages to each other that have certain words or phrases in it or that are deemed, anti, whatever. You'll get locked out of your account. You'll get shut down because if we as a group stand up for our rights, our individuation, our boundaries, then we mortify the narcissists. So their strategy is to pick you off one by one and isolate you. And then control the information that you get, and then guilt you if you don't act as part of the team. And then you end up with people who virtue signal. Whether it's church, whether it's politics, whether it's, schoolyard politics, whether it's the jibby jab, people will devalue you and let you know that you are not part of our club. Therefore, you have no value. What's that? You didn't give your life to Jesus? You have no value. You will burn in hell. So whenever you see somebody virtue signal, bear in mind that this is a frightened person. This is a frightened person who is afraid that they will not be loved and accepted. Whenever you hear a reptilian in power tell you that if you have to do your part, that is a very subtle way of saying if you don't accept Jesus, you're going to burn in hell. You have to be part of the community. You have to give up your rights in order to be accepted. So let's see, was there anything else I wanted to say looking up my notes here? In order to mortify the narcissist, we need to understand something that the narcissist never understands. And in history, every narcissist, whether it's Hitler or whoever it is, they never understand that this eventuality will happen. And the eventuality is that the people that they are seeking to feed off of and control are people who have identities. They have empathy and they have identities within themselves. And the narcissist, because they don't have an identity, and because they're not individuated, and because they don't have any empathy, they can't foresee what it's like to wake up to defend your own sense of self. So they never plan for it. They try and oppose it. They will try, they might even, torture, kill, try to eliminate it. So they'll try to eliminate any opposition. But they never plan for the eventuality that at some point, all of the people who are people that have emotions and have empathy and have identities and have individuation, that at some point they wake up because they have integrity. They can't tolerate throwing their integrity away. And when that happens, these reptilian overlords are always overthrown. They're like cockroaches. They scurry away and they hide and they plan sometimes for decades, and then they come back. That's just the fact of the matter. They will come back every time. And when we're not paying attention and we're lazy in our development, and when we get selfish, and when we get all the normal human failings that we have, they capitalize on that and they slowly make their way back, making promises to us and love bombing us and appealing to our fears and our egos, and we put them in positions of power. And then, just like happened, like for me in September, when I listened to the President of the United States, whom I had supported, I was happy that he had, become the president. I took him on his word when he said that he would not introduce mandates. He said he was going to that he wouldn't do a bunch of things, and that he was going to do a bunch of things. And then he did the exact opposite. And then he stood there and looked me in the face and said that if I didn't do what he said, he would take away my ability to make money and eat and live. And at that point, my integrity would not allow me to be abused like that. Now, I had my reaction, you had your reaction, yours may have been before mine. At some point, we wake up. That's when I woke up. At some point, human beings who have a sense of self, who have empathy, who have individuality, at some point, the abuse gets to a level where it's intolerable, and they wake up. I was in the grocery store yesterday, And as I was pushing my cart through, I had these two middle-aged women were talking about, yeah, I'm double anointed with the booster, and I still got Omicron. When is this ridiculous stuff going to stop? Do you think she's going to get a fourth one? I don't think so. Everybody wakes up at some point. And this is what the narcissists don't see coming. And when it comes, it will come on them like an avalanche. So this is my belief and this is my hope. And I believe we are in that state where that is about to happen. Anyway, so that's enough of my ranting. This is a question and answer. If you do have a question, write the word question in all caps and then write your question. If you don't have a question, I will most likely just bypass or delete whatever you have to say because it's noise to me. If you have an honest feeling, I'll be happy to look at that, but I'd prefer questions and honest feelings. And let's take a look and see what we have here. So, Vincent.thunderwizard.com says hello. He says, good evening. You should go to his website. His website is Vincent.thunderwizard.com. He is one of my certified astrologers, and he's got a bunch of other stuff that he does. Anyway, go check him out. Let's see. Thundra Staves Rangel also says hello. She is also one of my certified Vedic astrologers, and she has a bunch of other stuff that she does. I believe she is a radio personality. I've heard that. She's become, we've got a star in our midst here. You can go to her website, thundra.thunderwizard.com, and if you call her Thunder Goddess, she will giggle and it will make her very happy. So go check her out. All right. So if you got a question, again, write the word question. Rune, question. Are guilt and empathy linked? No. It's a good question. No, they're not. You'd think that they are. You think you know what guilt is. Guilt and empathy are not linked. People who have empathy do not suffer from guilt. I know you're shaking your head like, what the hell is he talking about? There's a difference between having empathy, like you accidentally step on somebody's foot. You feel bad about that. You are in a bad mood and you snap at somebody. You feel bad about that. Something was going on and you weren't in your full conscious state of mind and you did something selfish or hurtful to somebody like that, and you go and ask for forgiveness. You make restitution. That's not guilt. Guilt is anger directed inwards. So when somebody feels guilty, have you ever noticed when somebody's guilty, they always turn themselves into a victim. They will have a pity party. They will hold themselves up and lock the door and, act like they're going to blow their brains out. What's his name? O.J. Simpson. The guy drove around for hours in the back of a car pretending that he was going to blow his brains out. That's guilt. Makes a big scene out of it, and it gets all the attention, and they make it about themselves. That's guilt. And it means that they're angry. So I've experienced guilt. So when you feel guilty, like, something happened, like you broke up with a girlfriend and then you feel guilty. That guilt doesn't mean that you have empathy for your ex-girlfriend. It means that you're angry with them for putting the responsibility of their feelings onto you. And it makes you angry, but you can't tolerate that feeling because you'll be a bad person. So instead, you take that anger, that feeling of how dare you put that responsibility on me, and you turn it inward and you go, I'm such a horrible person. I'm gonna hold my breath until I turn blue. So I understand what you're trying to say. But guilt is not the same as, and I'm trying to find the right word for it, comprehension of knowing that you harmed somebody, intentional or otherwise, because you make restitution for that. So the difference is the person who's guilty makes a big stink about it, and makes themselves the object, the subject of the drama, and gets and makes a big deal so that people go, it's okay, don't blow your brains out. That's guilt. Somebody who acknowledges what they did, they come to the person and they say, listen, I know there's nothing I can do to fix what I did. I acknowledge what I did. You didn't deserve it. And then they don't explain it. The guilty person will say, but I couldn't help it because I this and that. And, you said this and that made me feel this way. And so, of course I did it. Well, like the guy who beats up his girlfriend and then feels guilty afterwards. Look what you made me do. It's just that you make me so crazy. No. True understanding says, listen, you didn't deserve that, and I take full responsibility. I understand if you don't want to talk to me, if you're upset with me. I just want you to know, here's the money that I owe you or whatever. And, then then if somebody asks them, do you feel guilty? They said, well, I feel bad, but, I did what I could. I did my part to make restitution, and if they're still upset with me, I can understand, but it's no longer my problem. That's actually a healthy response. So to answer your question, no, guilt is not the same as empathy. Impetus correspondent, okay, that's not a question. And by the way, that's only for the UK, impetus correspondent. That's not for Canada, even parts of the United States, other parts of Europe, Australia, New Zealand. Oh my God, New Zealand. No, the pandemic has not ended in any of those places. Vincent.thunderwizard.com, honest feeling. I feel angry with my parents, but bottle it up and act out passive aggressively. That's a very normal human thing to do, and I salute you for your bravery and your willingness to see that in yourself. It feels unsafe to just let myself feel it due to past abuse. I want to heal but have resistance. Advice? Yes, keep doing exactly what you're doing. Everything that I know of that you're doing, keep doing that. It'll get better. All right. Jameson song, honest feeling. Got used last night. Ooh, I don't know how'd that happen? I feel awful and codependent, worrying that I'm to blame. I learned from it, but I feel weak, vulnerable, stupid, and tempted all day to use substances to numb the pain. I understand that feeling. I believe that I've been in similar situations myself. I'm sorry you went through that. Obviously, even though you haven't asked, my advice is do not numb the pain. Feel it. Have all of your feelings without any judgment. See a little Jameson on your chest, and try and nurture that little Jameson who's in a lot of pain. And remember my favorite positive affirmation, which is, even though I have this feeling, I thoroughly and completely accept myself. And eventually the pain will go away and you'll be okay. And you will heal and life will change. Just got to make it through until then. Okay, that's not a question. That's not a question. That's not a question. All right, I don't see any more questions or any more honest feelings, so we can leave it there for the time being. If you're new to the channel, my talking is about 1% of what this channel is about. What this channel is about getting the energy, the actual spiritual energy into your body to transform you so that you will have the power to go even beyond the individuality that you have. And we do that through a unified energy practice, which I should probably come up with a name for. And if you go here to thunderwizard.com and you hit subscribe, you will be given access to videos that if you just simply press play, you just follow along with me. I'm not going to talk. You just do the exercises that I do, and it will stimulate all of the energy systems in your body. Number one, the life force energy, the chi. It will give you the ability to absorb that from your surroundings. Every molecule around you, has the power of a nuclear bomb. There's so much energy just around you all the time. So working with Qi allows you to pull that energy into your body. And you also release and make use of the energy within the cells of your body. That's Qi, Qigong. Then we do Kundalini yoga. Kundalini is the fire energy in the nerves in the spinal column, which has to do with your psychological, emotional evolution, which you work through in the 7 realms of psychological evolution, which are called the chakras. So we got those 2. And then we have a third energy, which to my knowledge, I'm the only person teaching it publicly. And there's actually very few people that know about it. And this is what's called the Shi, or the lightning energy of the heart. And you have within your heart center, you have your soul, which is masculine. Surrounding the masculine is a lightning power, which is feminine. And it's the most powerful force in the universe. It is the force that is used to destroy demons. You can fight demons with your bare hands, and every person on the planet has this lightning powerhouse within them, but it's dormant because it's just keeping the soul safe. But when you do specific exercises, literally by just doing simple movements with your hands, you stimulate the meridians that go directly to this heart center area and release that lightning. Now, you get amazing energy, which is why I show my friend here, Dr. Manhattan, because it's very similar to that. You get a level of energy that is so intense, even Taoist masters are afraid of it. And what will happen is you will become aware very quickly of many of your failings, many of your emotional, psychological failings that have been holding you back. So there's a price to pay. The price is when you release this energy, which all of us have, which is normally dormant. Price is you got to give up your failings. You got to give up things that you're not aware of that are keeping you from your truly evolved, empowered self. You can go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. And go to my website, courses.thunderwizard.com, to see all of the things that I offer. And and of course, this channel, if you go and search on my channel and search in the playlist, you can do the free Qigong exercises. You can do like the Awakening the Immortals Qigong, which is probably the most powerful free exercise that I have. You can do the Heaven Earth Qigong meditation. You can do the Hul breath. All kinds of really powerful things that you can do here. And of course, there's all kinds of higher level stuff which you can do, like the Maoshan and other things as well. Lots of other things I can't even list. I've got so many video teaching packages here that I can't even list them. Go check them out yourself. Please make use of all these tools because I put them here to help you. And right now, more than ever, we are fighting against a sociopathic force. If you want to call it the Reptilians, that's fine. We have to fight against this force. And this is the most powerful spiritual technology that I know of, and I'm making it available to you in as many forms as I can. So please take advantage of it. Please do the exercises, and let's change this planet. Okay, one last check to see if there was any last minute thoughts or questions. Thundra Staves Rangel asks an interesting question. What is going on with the soul of a sociopath? I don't have the answer to that question. I know that they have one. It must be a horrific struggle. And I can only assume that they must be very advanced souls. You're going to think, what? They must be very advanced souls, because to choose to be damaged enough to become a sociopath, it means that they're volunteering because they know, look, the truth is, we don't evolve unless there's challenge. Unless it's painful, we don't do anything. We're very lazy. And so these challenging forces in our world actually make it intolerable for us to stay where we are, and we have to do something to evolve. And so there's a possibility that these are brave souls who have volunteered to say, I'll have that really horrible life, that just absolutely intolerably horrible mental illness, if that's what will help move society along. I know that's hard to hear, and that's just one theory, but to be honest, I don't know. I know that they have souls, but it must be very difficult and challenging for them. All right, Alex Calderon, you don't understand how this channel works and you haven't watched the videos. So please spend some time on the channel. If you have a question, write the word question. Otherwise, please don't. Please know what we talk about on this channel. So, I haven't said anything about abductions. I haven't said anything about religion, especially that one that you just threw out there. So please respect the channel and understand what we do here. Baba Junzo, honest feeling. I feel inclined to go back and chant the Narasimha mantra you gave us once again. Yeah, go for it. It really helped me in my schoolwork last time, as well as intending our triumph over the reptilians. Well, it's still there. I've got it archived. I've got a couple of different things. I guess we'll have to do something here pretty soon, but maybe we'll chant the Narasimha again soon. But by all means, go ahead. All right, is that it? That's it. I don't see anything else. I wish you guys all the best. It's now, almost, we're getting this 11:15, so it's very late at night for me. Keep me in your thoughts. I'm going through making some decisions about what I want to do this next year, where I'm going to stay, and that decision will have a big impact on my ability to work with people on a one-on-one basis or not. I haven't made up my mind. So keep me in your meditations and send me some good vibes so that I can figure out what it is the best course of action for me and for my practice at the moment. Okay, that's it. I wish you guys health and happiness. If you haven't already gotten Omicron, I understand it, pretty much everybody's going to get it. So I recommend that you go to, and this is whether you're jabbed or not, I recommend that you go to COVID19criticalcare.com. That's the word COVID, the letters 19criticalcare.com, and look for the protocols that are used to prevent or to heal. And even if it's just, like taking quercetin, vitamin C, vitamin D, stuff like that. If you haven't got it yet, get yourself prepared so that you can be one of those who, according to the CDC, the best immunity available is having recovered, having gotten it and recovered. Not that I wish anybody get anything, but if you do, you can breathe a sigh of relief and know that you are the most protected possible. I'm one of those people. All right, that's it for me, guys. I wish you all the best. I will see you all very soon. Take care of yourselves and stay safe.